This week, lots of big, exciting announcements and previews coming out of the 2015 GAMA trade show.
And our topic of the week, gaming etiquette, how we should act around the table, and what mistakes we make, whether we mean it or not. I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast. The 2015 GAMA trade show took place last week in Las Vegas, and all the big game companies were there with presentations and exhibits, and one of the ones that we're going to talk about first is Upper Deck, of course, who make Legendary and lots of other games that we're fans of. They had some new announcements in the Legendary line, in fact. The first of which was they revealed the big June box set for the Legendary Marvel game, which is going to be based on the Secret Wars crossover arc that's kind of happening right now in Marvel Comics. So you expect to see lots of new characters from all over the place, different dimensions. Supposedly, there may even be certain characters from the 90s X-Men cartoon. We don't have any real concrete details other than that, but there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff, and I know we're really excited to see that.
Pretty much it was, God, everyone keeps asking for like these two characters, like random, but we can't do a whole set for. Screw it. Let's just make this entire one just random characters. It's Secret Wars. It makes sense.
Exactly. They just bring everything by virtue of not being related, they're related.
That's why I'm really excited, because I think it's very likely we're going to see the Black Spider-Man in this, because I mean
possible.
He
has a name, you know.
I totally forgot, which is why I did not say it. I feel really bad because I actually really like him.
That's okay.
Because I mean, every image I've seen of Secret War, like their big image, he's like right on the cover. Like,
yeah, there's all those Spider-Mans. There should be lots of cool, crazy stuff.
So
other than that, there's also Predator, which is coming, which is going to be a new addition to the Legendary Encounters line that will be additionable, that's a word, right, to the Alien line. You play as the Predator, so you can have a Predator versus Aliens game, or it's a standalone. And there's also going to be, apparently, expansions specifically for the Alien Encounters game coming out later in the year. So they are continuing with that line full force. Moving on from Legendary, though, they also talked about the Versus system, which they are bringing back. We saw a preview of it last year at Gen Con, which we talked about, of course.
And unfortunately, when they first came out with it, they didn't know that they couldn't use the word living. Was it living?
LCG.
LCG,
yeah,
living
the term
card.
living card game, right?
Which is funny because the company that owns it was right next to them.
But that's in the past now. They're bringing it back supposedly for release at this year's Gen Con. And what's cool is that in addition to Marvel, they're going to have other properties involved. Like they said, they could bring in anything they have the rights to, like Alien, Predator, even Firefly. So we'll see. That should be really cool. And finally, in case you needed some more, they also announced they're making a new standalone non-deck building Legendary line card game or board game based on The Crow, the movie The Crow. If there's any big Crow fans out there, that one will be there for you.
Yeah, I mean, all this just sounds so great. I mean, I think Crow is really cool and something that I would love to see made more of. Alien and Predator, getting to throw them together. And now when they say Alien Expansion, I'm very curious what they're going to do now.
Right.
There is plenty outside the movies for them to pull from. I'm just it's very curious where they're going to pull
from. Maybe the
that.
video game? Who knows? Yeah.
There's plenty. Once again, even then, that's
comics. There's all kinds of stuff.
The Verse system, of course. I mean, we got the first one. I remember, and it was really cool. So if you're at Gen Con, definitely keep an ear, because I remember it wasn't right at the beginning.
Surprise announcement. Yeah. This time, I don't think it's going to be a surprise.
Yeah, but they might not give it away right at the beginning. And the game came with a shirt, so I mean, it's a really cool thing.
Our version, dude.
Yes, yeah. Our version. They could do it for both.
They probably won't. I'm making the announcement now.
And of course, we already like we said before, Secret Wars. It's a good chance for you to spot maybe your favorite character who maybe wouldn't be able to have a full expansion by himself,
right?
At least in the Marvel. So definitely,
that's Upper Deck.
Yeah. But of course, there's more than just Upper Deck there.
Yeah.
Fantasy Flight came around, and of course, they brought up Star Wars, because we all love Star Wars. And in particular, the Star Wars Imperial Assault expansion, the first big one, which is Twin Shadows. Pretty much, as you can guess, this whole Rebel War is going to spread and even hit the outer planets, in this case, Tatooine. Han Solo was sent there to find out, because of the increasing Imperial presence, but he's gone dark. So it's up to you and your friends to go and find and save him.
All right.
This comes with new not villains, what would you call them? Units, enemy units, heroes to use, as well as new map pieces. You can even fight on the bridge of an Imperial cruiser, as well as, of course, in the bar, which once again I forget the name
of it. The cantina.
Thank you, the cantina. Nice. I really hope they have mentions of the band there because that's really important.
Yeah,
and they better have a little button that just goes dun, dun, dun. But of course there'll be There's going to be just tokens of some figures as well, which you can get expansion figures for. The one in particular I know everyone wants is there's Boba Fett. Right. It also includes new skirmish modes, so you can play on both sides. So it looks like a lot of fun. This is the first big expansion. I expect more to come. I'm very excited because I already know how popular Descent is and all the big expansions they have.
Right. So there's probably going to be a lot coming.
Yeah.
This is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. And plus it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that even makes it bigger. So definitely if you played the first Imperial Assault, this is probably something you're going to want to pick up. But of course there's more than that. They also announced a new Warhammer board game, Forbidden Stars. In essence, the whole war on the planet has calmed down enough that everyone decided, let's go conquer every other planet. So pretty much you get to choose one of 4 factions, each one with all unique abilities. And pretty much you fly from planet to planet conquering. You have to fight on the planet. You have different units and equipment. And it looks like a really fun expansion on the Warhammer universe.
And right, like it's in the Warhammer universe, but it's not like a Warhammer's miniature, sort of a spin-off of the Warhammer universe, I think.
Yes, it's not like the same miniature. It does come with miniatures.
Right.
Really nice, but it's not like the Warhammers, when you have to buy your own miniatures depending on that.
Right.
No, this would be more akin to like in probably, Imperial Assault. Like, miniatures come in the game.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, if Warhammer's up your alley, or just sort of this space exploration conquering kind of theme, this is definitely a game to look at.
Whose alley isn't that up? I don't know. IDW was also there. Of course, they just recently came from comic books to starting to publish games. They had some cool announcements. For one thing, they are going to be putting out a line of the Godfather-based games, as in the movie, not the relative. And for some reason, IDW seems to love making lots of games out of properties. So, for example, Chew, the comic book, they announced there are multiple games based on that. They also, at the show, said they're going to be putting out games based on the TV show Orphan Black.
I haven't watched that, but I heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, and it has a comic book now that they're publishing. I haven't watched it either, but it's interesting. Multiple games coming from that, and multiple games, again, for The Godfather, including one is like a deduction game, like Mafia.
I assume the Godfather game will be at least 2 hours long.
Well, the first one's going to be small, but they did say they're going to come out with one later that's like a big, like, you're taking over territories of New York and stuff.
Didn't they also make, what was that, Tammany Hall or something? That's sort of like that. Yeah. So this isn't the first time with the area control, so they'll probably learn if there's any mistakes. Once again, haven't played that game. It looked a lot of fun, though. Uh-huh. And it probably be able to use it in the Godfather. So that sounds really cool.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, it seems like, at first, you'd think a Godfather board game, but it does make sense.
No, it does. It's just, you don't think of it as long as they don't say really deeply connected, like, in the Godfather kind of world with maybe the characters there, but it's not like
you're following the story of the movie or anything. More generalized.
I mean, at least this way. I mean, maybe you could.
I don't know.
Maybe a good developer could do it and just follow the story.
And as a bonus announcement, they also showed off the new Machikoro Deluxe Tin Edition, which I think is a limited edition release coming out at the end of the year. Some of the components might be special upgraded, but really mainly it's a cool looking tin if you really want a special Machikoro, because everybody loves that game.
I'm going to have to take a look because I really like their box.
Right.
Not just the box itself, but like the way it opens up and it holds everything, it's really nice. So
we're for collectors.
I'm very curious to see if it actually comes with anything really unique or special.
Mm-hmm.
But enough of that. We can't be talking about board games if we weren't talking about Steve Jackson games.
Oh, no.
And of course, they brought their own stuff, and we might as well start off with Munchkin because that's what they're known for. And of course, we got a new Munchkin, one I'm a little surprised about, Nightmare Before Christmas. Pretty much, I don't know what else to say besides that. It's Munchkin with Nightmare Before Christmas.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. I'm sure those two markets...
No, I mean, like, I don't have anything against it. It just seems weird. It's like, does that mean we're planning to see some more Nightmare Before Christmas things coming out from Disney?
Yeah, or maybe more Disney-themed Munchkins of different movies.
It just seems like a really surprise.
Well, they do, even though there's no Nightmare Before Christmas movies.
It is extremely popular.
The merchandise, they put out a lot. So.
It's got a strong following.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the movie. I can't.
We
But they've also announced a Hellboy board game, which is really exciting because I know I really like Hellboy series, and I think it's actually it works really well for a board game. Same way we were just mentioning with Godfather. I think the whole universe itself could easily pull around.
Oh yeah, I mean there's more than enough there to especially because it wouldn't be like a hard one. There's combat, there's all normal kind of stuff you could.
Not only that, you can do like mysteries and stuff with an artifact kind of thing. I think it's a great place for Hellboy to go, and
we'll see. It could be like a Hellboy dice game, I don't really know.
Yeah, it could be just a zombie dice, but with Hellboy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened in my Dino Hunt.
Yeah, we'll see.
And of course, we have an expansion for Car Wars, not Card Wars. Someone else makes that. Car Wars Arena. What this expansion was designed really was to help out maybe the more, they said like the more hardcore players. So it's gonna have more advanced tactics and maps. Some more game modes. It's really to just show the world or the other players. How many crazy things you can do in the game, which just sounds really cool. I keep saying all these games I haven't played.
Right.
I feel so bad.
We're very busy. We're very busy. Finally, the one we're going to talk about that was also at the show is AEG. Of course, they were showing off things like the new love letters that they're coming out with based on Archer and Adventure Time and some other stuff. But they also announced a new game. I think they talked about it before, but they really showed it off here called Rumpelstiltskin. Which sounds really cool to me. It's a 2-player game where it's sort of a micro-ish kind of game. Each player has a small deck, and each card has a name on it and an ability. And whichever card's at the bottom of your deck, the other player is trying to guess what that card is based on how many cards you've played. They might have abilities that move your deck around or things like that. So like Rumpelstiltskin, you're trying to guess the other person's name. Looks really neat. It's a great concept. And that should be out later this year. And then they also showed off the next set of Lost Legacy, which, if you don't know, is sort of the Love Letter sequel. But unlike there have been 2 versions of it so far, the next 2 are going to come packaged in one box as opposed to being sold separately so that you can combine them right away if you want. I believe in Japan or Europe or some other territories, the original ones were actually released at 2 or 3 in one box as well. It was only here that they started putting them separately.
In the horrible clamshell package.
Right. Well, that some people seem to love. But
well, no, they love the pouch, I think.
Yeah.
Not the clamshell packaging.
Right. Yes, that's true.
We're the ones who have to deal with that.
So that's interesting that they're grouping them together now, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe the box can fit the other 2. Or something. That would be nice.
Yeah, definitely.
But of course, this was just some of the big highlights we want to mention. There's so much more.
There was plenty.
So
more.
We definitely suggest you take a look because we missed something that is up your alley.
Run through our news section. Lots of stuff happened last week. Lots of cool stuff.
But for now, I think that's enough about all these new games. I'd actually talk about some other games, but that aren't funded through our Kickstarter Pickstarter. So for this week, my Kickstarter Pickstarter is Chaos of Cthulhu. It's by Imp House Games, and the idea of the game is, the end of the world has come. It's just not how you expect. It was a bunch of teenagers in the basement bored and found the Necronomicon. And, they fought over who got to end the world, and unfortunately they tore the book.
Wait, they fought over who got to end the world?
Yeah, that's what the story is. So you put the book back together, and then you try to summon, your elder god. Turns out it sort of jumbled things up. So then you got this weird mix. Each person got their own weird mix of monsters. So, of course, to decide which one is the true elder god, you have them fight.
That makes sense.
The way the game works is each person has a group. Like there's a green, a blue set, a red set. They each generally have a similar grouping of elder creatures. And you roll the dice, and each part represents a body part, like a head, a torso, the arms, and the feet. And each side has a different ability and strength. So pretty much you sort of do a Frankenstein Cthulhu beast.
Huh.
and then you each take a turn around to use their abilities depending on what your dice are showing.
So that's where the chaos comes
Yes,
in.
exactly. And then you're going to pretty much, depending on if you take damage or not, or heal, you roll your dice up or down. A little bit like, Dice Masters. You know how they have different values depending on their side.
Right.
And your goal is to knock out your opponent's creatures. You can knock out an arm, but if you get their torso, they're gone permanently, no matter what their other dice are. And pretty much your goal is to fight.
It's like a Monty Python battle.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool because it involves this interesting sort of mix and match dice. The body dice are nice big. They're not small little things. And I think it's a sort of an interesting, also hilarious concept on.
Definitely unique.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anything like that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so it looks really cool. The game sells for $54. It's all made in the U.S. and they're making sure I know the one big thing with these guys is that it has to be the top quality. Like they were the entire thing in the video. That's I think or not the video, the whole page. It's about quality, so you can assure that your money you're putting in, you're getting components of that value.
So it must be a lot of dice, right?
Yeah. No. Well, you get each one. I think was 5 if I did the math right. So I think it was 4 groups. That's 20 big dice for the body parts alone. Then you get small dice, and that decides how you do attacks and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot in there, and
it's a hefty box.
Yes. So I think a really cool game, a cool twist on dice and Cthulhu. So take a look.
Yeah, good spin on an old genre. And mine is an even older genre, which is the Western for my game, which is called Train Heist, developed by Sean McDonald. It's a 2 to 4 player cooperative game where everyone is a cowboy of sorts attempting to rob a train while it's moving. Of course, you're not criminals in a sense, because the idea is that the sheriff is corrupt and taking money from the people. You're sort of the Robin Hood. It actually is direct, they actually call it like it's something to do with Nottingham. It's a little bit Robin Hood influenced.
Now, do I get a sack and do I have to get bread by you?
No, that doesn't happen in this game. What happens is you're moving around the board. There's lots of things you can jump on and off of the train. What's really neat, though, is that the train at the end of everyone's turn will move. And depending on what kind of space the train lands on and what speed it's going, there could be different effects. It might pick up more money. It might reveal you draw a card or something like that. And you can even jump on and off the train or onto a horse. So there's a lot of interesting movement going around, and you can be with a teammate on one train car working together to do something. And there's also poker-style suits for the cards that are, like, for instance, if you have a pair of a certain kind, it'll give you like an extra bonus move on your turn as an ability, something like that. But anyway, this just sounded like it was right up my alley. The cooperative, the Western train robbing theme, it's so cool.
Let's get one thing very clear. Usually, if anything, whether it's board games, video games, movies, involves a train, Jonathan will love it.
Those trains. I mean, trains are people on a train is a recipe for success in my opinion. I'll go into that. I won't go into the details.
Second, you also know anything as a board game as Western comes up and they have poker symbols on it. I love it.
Yeah, you like that? Or if there's Cthulhu too, we kind of.
Well, in general, that's for me. But I mean, in particular, if a Western game has something and they also include poker symbols, I don't know why, but that just makes me think it must be great.
It's cool. It's just it fits the theme. It works perfectly. The games.
I was just thinking because you said depending on the speed and where it lands and stuff. I imagine being on the train just stops me like, okay. Let's pick up money. I know we were getting robbed, but let's get some more.
There are tunnel spaces where if you're on top of the train, you will get hurt if you're still there.
Yes.
Anyway, Train Heist, it goes for $36. That's US. It's actually a Canadian game, so depending on where you are, it might be a different price. But you can go ahead and back it now because I'm probably going to do it.
No. Have you actually, just because I just realized, there's the other heist game that's not cooperative.
Are you talking about Cult Express?
Yeah, have you had
No,
that?
we've just seen it. It looks awesome too.
Yeah.
I know. We should get our hands on that one.
I love how you just said anything with trains is great with you, then the one game.
Yeah, the one game that exists we haven't played. Anyway, you can check it out. Our links are below. But for now, we're going to finish our show off with the topic of the week.
We sit around the table to play board games and have a lot of fun, but unfortunately, certain ways we act can sort of get us out of that mood. And that's why we're here to talk about the gaming etiquette and how you should try to act around the table. A lot of these things, sometimes you may not even notice you're doing until, someone brings it up. So these are things that are just good to put in the back of your head and maybe just help other people out.
I feel like this is our Mr. Rogers Sesame Street. Let's sit down, kids. Let's talk about good values. Learn to share.
Howdy ho, gamer.
Exactly. Yeah, but there really are, like you said, you round the table to have fun, and at times things can. Human beings are apt to become rowdy and reckless and unkind to others in any situation. And
you're human. It's it's our special power.
And I know, probably every single person in our group has been guilty of it at one.
No, that's the thing. No one's perfect, and if you think you are, that means you don't recognize it.
And I'm sure, or there's one person or two people who come into your group every week that you're like. They always do something that annoys you.
that happens, but we're going to focus on some of these things because...
Let's go through the bullet points.
Let's start with the big one that will eventually come, especially the newer the game. Rules arguments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always something that the book doesn't quite specify on, or someone remembers differently or interprets differently.
Now, let's first mention this has been not nearly as difficult a problem as we've approached this time period because we have the internet.
That's true.
And that has made things a lot easier when you can be like, I don't think this works. Yeah, guess what? It doesn't work. It says here. Oh, okay. It made things much easier. However, when disputing a rule, and let's say you can't find it online or the rules are not clear, that's actually why you notice a lot of rule books that say the cards overruled the rule book. Mm-hmm. First, realize why you're arguing the rule. In certain situations, argue it because you don't know how the game's going to go on, because maybe you're sure, like if I roll dice, does it work this way or this way? Don't come into it headstrong, because sometimes you may be like, no, that doesn't work, because you're going to get screwed in the process.
Well, yeah, I think the hardest part is you really have to have an impartial person to help, because usually when you're arguing over a rule, it's a rule that you want to be in your favor.
Right. And let's talk about rules when we can't find an obvious yes/no. Yeah. I think that's the big one. Because you can argue each way, but as soon as you find the answer, it's done. Right. And however, if you keep arguing against it, or it shouldn't act that way, it shouldn't be that, then that's a whole other thing, and for shame.
Unless, the rules really are poorly written, and they
no, I'm talking about, you look online and
yeah.
I don't know, maybe, Vipers should be able to attack each other in Battlestar.
Or, some ridiculous Joker-based rule in some DC card game. But anyway, rules arguments, yeah. So how do you settle it when you have that? When there is no right or wrong answer, it really is just the difference of the way you look at it.
Well, I think the first thing you should look at is the game itself. What is the game trying to tell or do? If you feel like the game is trying to keep more secrets and you don't want to reveal something, maybe it's not supposed to tell someone. However, if it's something that maybe is assumed around games, for example, what if the rule was no, you can't look through my discard pile? Usually something's face up in every other game in the discard pile is usually open information.
And that's also one that's really people usually don't think about that unless there are people who play a lot of board games, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that can be, I think, a point of contention among new gamers a lot of times, who are like, well, where's that rule? Why should that be? You know what I mean? There's a lot of weird things like that can be...
That actually brought up a point. I know this one's very hard to do, and it's one that everyone will do, usually. When you said new gamers, and not just people who are new to all board games, but let's say you bring a new game to the table. It's understandable you may not remember every rule, and it's just in your head, so you might not forgot to tell people, and so you don't do it, but when someone else tries to do it, you're like, no, that's illegal, or whatever the case may be. Now, on both sides, understand that this is a new game. You're going to screw things up. I can't think how many times we've screwed up.
I can't think of a time where we didn't screw up.
But don't take it personal. This is strictly from the people who broke the rule. You're all learning it. Even the person who read the rules still is trying to get around it. Now, the person who's read the rules, do try to make sure you tell everyone the rules. Don't... If you think of them small... And
there's always one of those times when it's like, oh, if you had told me that, I would have done this and this and this and this.
And, there's... this is one that's a bit rare, but some people maybe hold back a rule and be like, oh, yeah, I forgot to mention you can't do that.
I think bottom line, the best way to solve it is decide... going in, say, if there's any disputes, whoever owns the game or whoever house it is will make the final decision.
That almost always is the case.
Just so people know, and they're not like, oh, you're just saying that because blah blah blah. Set a rule in advance so that there's no, or it doesn't get messy later on.
But That's only one of the things we got.
It's only one of the things. This is more.
Now, this next one I think is a really sort of funny one because I think we're going to talk about one aspect of it and how we do the opposite. Choosing a game.
We don't.
Yes, but before we get to that,
Yeah.
because that actually is a whole other, that's another etiquette issue, that one that we really need to work on. Let's say you brought a game to the table, and I'm like, I want us to play this game. However, Jonathan, let's say, has a game he wants to play as well.
Yeah.
Now, how do you choose?
And what happens? And when you have 6 people and they all want to play a
Yes.
different game.
Now, I think the first thing you have to look at is what the time you're in. This is more important. Let's say it's the start of the game night. You probably all have the energy to maybe do a longer one, or the new game, for example. Because even if it's a shorter one, new games tend to take more time. However, if it's like 10 o'clock or so, I wouldn't take out Arkham.
Right. No, don't start Twilight Imperium if it's later than noon.
Second, how many times have you guys played the game? For example, we would love to play Legendary like every single game a night probably. Right. But you shouldn't bring it up if someone else wants to try something different.
Yeah, it's definitely it can be tough because you want everybody to have fun. You want everyone to agree on a game. Also, don't be afraid to we've touched on this before, but don't be afraid to split up into groups if people really can't agree. Maybe you have enough people to play 2 different games.
That actually is also another one. The number of people there.
Right.
Like if your game it supports 6, but really doesn't work. Really, you want 4, and you have 6 people there. Don't take that out.
Yeah. And once in a while, maybe take a hit. Like maybe you're not crazy about whatever game they want to play, but if everybody else wants to play it, just like, all right, at the end of the day, you're there to spend time with each other.
And odds are, then they'll play your game.
Right. Make a compromise, or like set up, even if you have the organizational skills in advance, set up a list of here's what we're playing this week, so we know.
Yes. And now to go on to the opposite problem, which is one of our biggest pet peeves. When no one suggests a game.
And we just look at everything. Yeah. Well, usually it's like the same problem ultimately because it's like, I don't know, I'll play anything. How about this? No, not that though.
Yeah. First of all, if you say I don't know, you've given up your vote. I think you have to understand. You're pretty much saying I'm up for anything.
Yeah.
However, if you don't know but you don't think you don't want something, say like, look, I'm up for anything, just nothing that's a trader roll. I don't know, because you don't want to do the stress of that. Or I don't want a dice game. Whatever small purpose. Say it right beforehand. Not before people say, well, what about Suburbia? And then you go, oh.
Right. Don't just knock people down.
Because that way people at least go like, okay. Second, if you're like, I don't know, I just want to, and everyone says that, if you have to take charge.
Right.
Take charge. Because then be like, you know what? No one else saying we're playing this.
Don't be afraid. I feel like you've done that before, and then we're just like, all right, it's on the table, so yeah, it works.
Well, that's what you should do. Because really, what happens is, I mean, there are a lot of board games, and our collection's small compared to some other people's.
Yeah. Right, which is scary to think about.
Strictly speaking, what we actually own, not what's in the store. We do not own nearly as much of what's in the store.
Right.
We wish.
That collection, vast, very vast.
But I mean, sometimes that you just got to do that. And it may feel awkward at first. You may be like, I don't know if anyone's going to like it. Like, that's one of my things. I'm like, I don't know if anyone wants to play that. Especially because I burned myself because I realized early on I pushed Arkham too hard. So now I'm afraid to push anything. But sometimes just to get the ball rolling. Because even if people say like, no, I don't want to do that. You know what, guys? What if we do this then? And then that way everyone comes up with something.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to get it moving. So it's either everyone has an idea or no one has an idea. That's something.
And there's a way to solve each of those problems.
And one other big one, if you guys plan in advance, let's say Arkham or D&D, long game, you're doing that. Don't arrive and be like, I don't want to do this. You plan in advance, you've already decided.
Sure.
And chances are, this will be the one time you play that game for the next 6 months.
Right, depending on if you're us or not. All right, well, I think that covers that.
Right.
Yeah, the next one is probably maybe the biggest one of the biggest one, which, I mean, it's almost like beating a dead horse, but, it's just like in...
Oh, that's actually it, beating a dead horse.
Just like in real-life sports and esports, if you will. Don't be a sore loser, don't be a sore winner, which it can be tough in a lot of games, especially games like just last week we were playing Smash Up, where everyone's constantly being aggressive towards the other people over and over and over.
Well, no, that's goes in the gameplay. I think we're strictly speaking reaching the end.
Well, true. I guess I'm lumping it all into.
Yes, no, I understand because what happens is I know happened to me is when you see no way to win, it really gets you down because then you're like, I'm not really playing in this game anymore.
Well, I know Jeff Kanata, who we like podcast host, said once what I really agreed with, that he doesn't care if he's the winner or the loser. He just wants to be like in the running at the end.
No, that's the thing. No, that's on top. No, I like it when I'm in the running near the end, and I don't, and I all of a sudden like, oh, I won. That's great. No, I'm talking about like when you find out like I'm not in the running in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, the thing, you just have to, before the game, realize that it's just a game, and you're gonna. And I find what also helps is to look at it more look at it more in terms of game mechanics and theme. Don't think of, oh, that guy's being a jerk and killing my people. Look at it more as that army overtook my army. You know what I mean? Like you're
right.
role playing in a way.
Well, however, we're strictly right now commenting more on the losing side.
I'm getting it. Oh yeah.
On the winning terms, if you win, don't rub it in the person's face unless the game strictly tells you to.
Right.
Which I think some games actually do.
I mean, there's really this isn't one where it's like there's really a good solution. It's kind of just you gotta just be conscious of your behavior and try to think about it. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't know you should do these things. It just can be hard to remember to do it when you're in the game.
And of course, I think going back to losing once again, that's always usually. It's okay to say like once in a while, like, oh, if I only had that one extra turn or something. But don't go like you wouldn't have like if you constantly do that every time.
Well, one thing I think we like to do that's good is the way you phrase it. We like to look back and think strategically. What could I have done?
Phrasing and tone, that's two different things. For example, I do like looking back, especially in certain games, being like when we played a game of Star Realm. And we're talking about, I won, but, you had one draw. If you got that draw, I was doomed.
Yeah, like if you had done this instead. Like,
because what that's saying more is like, how would we? It's more like giving a puzzle in a game.
It's an analysis.
It's analysis of the game and it's not you only won from dumb luck or this roll or
right. Like you said, all about tone, all about the way you say it.
But I think continuing off tone is a big one, participation and encouraging it.
And that goes back to having new people.
Yes, indeed.
Involved, and we've touched on co-op games too. Like there's of course the issue of the alpha gamer, but even in other kinds of games, like any co-op game or like a role-playing game too, where you want to make sure you're not overshadowing anybody.
Well, I think for a big example, participation within games, I'm going to use D&D as an example. As the dungeon master, your goal really isn't to win, but to make a story. So, and I think if you just throw terrible things at your players, assuming that's not like some high skill, like you guys are trying to push the limits, like that would really turn me off. If the first game, the guy that's why the person who we have as our Lord in Descent, we cannot let him be our dungeon master,
right? Because he would kill us all and be very unpleasant,
and he would enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely, and make sure give everybody a chance. Like, what do you want to do? And if you are one of the adventurers, same thing. Don't always be like, we're lead the charge. We're going in.
Oh, another big one for new people as well. If you're not the new person, I mean, if you scoff at their choices. Like, why would you do that?
Right.
Now, I'm not talking about when you get scared, because I've done this one, like, why are you doing that? There's two, but, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, when someone's like, ugh, that was the dumb move, basically, which we've definitely done.
No, we've done, but there comes a point when...
Yeah, you want to try to rein it in.
Especially if someone's new.
Right.
I'm talking about really
right,
new.
If they're learning.
Another one, this one happens because sometimes it's good to do. Other times it becomes hateful, and I know I do it because of my roommate. Sort of, I've learned it from him because he did it every game. Is saying that you will focus on one person if they go for you. Like, it's understandable why you do it every now and then. Like, if you go for me, I'm gonna have to go for you. But I knew my one roommate would, and every time we played Magic, he would attack only the person who hit him first. So it's sort of like you didn't want to, because it's not a cooperative game anymore.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, bottom line, basically, don't take things personally.
Yeah.
And think of more in game mechanics than like that the guy.
Right.
I need to go after that guy. Although sometimes that
No,
kind
I'm
of
saying
makes
no. That's what I'm
sense.
saying.
Yeah.
It's a strategy.
I see what you're saying.
But I'm
yeah.
not saying like if you pull it out every single game,
Like,
no one wants to play with you anymore.
Like if the person in last attacks you and you're in first, you don't need to go after that person. You know, that
well,
doesn't
unless
make
he has
sense.
something really good and you can steal it.
Right. You're speaking generally, of course. But so I think we covered a lot of good.
Yeah, I think once
subjects.
again, like a lot of them come down to just take a deep breath.
Right.
It's a game. You'll get to more games.
Yeah.
And have fun.
Have fun. It's not whether you win or lose. It's whether you get any sheep. I don't know. I tried to make it specific, and it didn't.
Always have fun. And remember, with a lot of these things, there's always exceptions or bending the rules or something. Like even with the rules argument, for example, if you can't find something, maybe you play this game one way, then you play it another way to see which one feels better. Or like with the winning and losing, sometimes, you just have a bad day and you can't avoid it. Yeah. It all just depends. You have to understand you're not going to get all of these. You will fail at times, and that's okay. Your goal is to try to get better, not to become perfect.
It's beautiful. You should run for president.
No, I should not. Oh, God, no.
If you have any thoughts on gaming etiquette, anything we talked about specifically, ideas on how to settle arguments, anything of the sort, or perhaps you have a suggestion for a new topic of the week, we'd love to hear it. You can leave a comment on our YouTube page below or send us an email to our address, which is rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And of course, you can contact us personally through our Twitter and of course comments on these video. Which, by the way, subscribe right down there. Really easy. Mm-hmm. That is extreme gamer etiquette. That's how you know you're a really good gamer.
Yeah, definitely. Subscribing is really good etiquette, and Facebook and all that good stuff.
And of course, just like all the games we mentioned earlier in the news, as well as just some of the ones we mentioned here, you can buy them from us.
Yes,
we have our own site, rollforcrit.com, where we have the news of all the other games announced, which we weren't able to mention, which we will be selling. We sell games now, and of course, hopefully be selling some of these games in the future.
Oh, yeah.
As well as, all our videos.
Yes,
it
playbacks,
pretty
podcasts.
good place to go.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I'm not biased at all. Again, it's rollforcrit.com, and I think that's the end of our podcast episode. Mm-hmm. So thank you for watching. My name is Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this is the Roll for Kit podcast.
The GAMA trade show took place last week in Las Vegas. It was in Las Vegas, right?
Yes, it was in Las Vegas.